Hello Year 6 and welcome to Thursday's literacy lesson. Now I'm sure you are all thinking, what are we going to do today? Because yesterday you finished the comprehension book that you have got. Now don't worry, there are going to be more delivered, but for the next couple of days we are going to do some writing, which I am really excited about because it is ages since I've seen your writing and it is so brilliant that I wanted to have a little look at some writing that we can do today. Now, it's going to be over the next 2 days. So we're going to do some techniques today and then apply them in some writing tomorrow. We're going to do a setting description. Now, I've picked setting description because it's something that we've done before and something that I know you know lots of the techniques for. And because it's been a while, it'll help get your brain going again. We're going to use a video for some ideas today for our starting point. Now, I'll send the link out for the video on Marvellous Me, but then I'll also play it on here. But if you're really struggling, you can also Google 23 degrees 5 minutes because that's the video. So when you Google it, it'll come up and you can have a watch. Now, we're not watching the whole thing. It's only a really small snippet at the very beginning to look at the setting. So I'm going to play it now. While we're playing it, have a think about what sort of things that you might describe. So have a think about what can be heard, what can be seen, what can be felt, what can be touched. So think about your senses and then think about some words that you might use for description in this video. Okay?
Closing in now. What was I thinking? Going to this frozen wasteland at the top of the world. Was I really going to find him here? The man who was like a father to me. The man whose faith in numbers was equaled only by his distrust of words. The man who disappeared 23 years and 5 months ago. My old Professor Horror.
Okay, so you only need to watch up to that part because as you can see, the setting is really clear on here. It's cold, it's windy, it's icy, there's not much around, it's uninhabited. He calls it a frozen wasteland. So there's nobody there. So the first thing I want to think about, and I know I asked you to think about this before, so you might have already thought of some of these, is vocabulary. So I want us to make sure that we are using some high level vocabulary in our writings over the next couple of days. So I've picked out some words that I think might be really good for this piece of writing, which are also high level for you. So I'm going to ask you to have a look at them. So you can use dictionary.com, you can talk about it with somebody. Also, you might know a couple of them from writing that we've done before. So I want you to have a look at them. So you've got unfrequented, you've got desolate, you've got intensifying, extreme, glacial, penetrating, relentless, cautionary and sinister. Now we've used sinister this week. So I want you to pause the video and have a look at each of those words because I want you to have those in your mind today and tomorrow of the kind of high level vocabulary that you could use. So pause the video now and have a look. Okay, so you should have had a good look at those. So we'll really quickly go through them. So you've got unfrequented. So that means not often occupied or visited. So nobody really goes there, nobody really visits there. And you can see that from the video, there was nobody apart from the man who was walking through the snow. There wasn't any buildings, so it wasn't often visited. Then you've got desolate. So again, solitary or lonely, so a desolate place. Intensifying, so you could use this for the weather. So strengthen or get stronger. So the wind could get stronger, the storm could get stronger. Pain could intensify, get stronger. Extreme, So you've got the most or the greatest, so an extreme, something that is the absolute extreme, an extreme storm or an extreme wind. Glacial, so that means bitterly cold or icy. So you could have a glacial wind attacked, couldn't you? So penetrating. So penetrating means piercing, something sharp that goes through something else. So you could have that cold penetrating his bones or something, couldn't you? Relentless, you've probably heard that word before. Doesn't stop. It keeps going and going and going. It doesn't stop. Cautionary. So a warning. So a caution is a warning. So you might use that a little bit for personification. So sinister then, we use that word this week. So sinister is threatening or ominous. So something that's threatening or ominous, a sinister. So you might again have a sinister warning. Okay, so that vocabulary today will really, really help you to think about some higher level words that you can put in your descriptions. So today then, we're going to be looking at figurative language. Now we've done this before, so have a little think before I tell you. You might want to pause the video and jot it down in your purple book. What is figurative language? What techniques do we use in figurative language? So have a pause and have a think. So the figurative language that we're going to look at today, so apart from like your adjectives, adverbs, they all add description, and verbs, they're really, really good, but there's certain techniques I want to remind you of today. So you've got similes, metaphors, personification, and we're also going to look at alliteration and onomatopoeia today. So they are techniques for figurative language for description. Like I say, they go hand in hand with your adjectives, verbs, adverbs to really create a picture in the reader's mind. Your job over the next couple of days is for somebody that hasn't watched that video, give them a clear picture of what it would be like. I know it's really a little bit hard to do that, but actually we all know, especially recently, what it's like to be freezing cold, have wind bashing against us, the snow coming down, because that has happened recently. So you can really think about that today. So I'm going to go through each technique and you're going to have a go at all of them. So I'm going to go through similes first. Now you might have a think, have a pause. What clue is there that something is a simile? So what clue is there in the piece of writing that something is a simile? So have a pause, have a think. Okay, so there's two words that are used in similes. So you've got as and like, because similes are for comparing. So it's when you compare one object to another object. So it's to give a picture. So you're saying that something is like something else, or if you're using as, so it might be as cold as, and comparing it. Now the challenge with all this figurative language is making it effective. Okay, so I could say something like it was as cold as an ice cube. But I want to think about something that's really effective, really gives me an image in my mind. Now I'm going to choose the snow to write my simile about. Because I know in this there was lots of snow. It was hammering down. So hammering would be a great verb to use. Now what I'm going to compare it to, so the first job is think about what are you going to compare it to. Okay, so you want to think about what's effective. Now, this is really hard, it's really powerful, it's really threatening. So I'm going to compare my snow to bullets. Okay. So I'm going to start actually with one of the words that I asked you to look up, but I'm going to switch it. So I'm going to have relentless, and I'm going to switch it into an adverb by adding ly. So I'm going to start with relentlessly. That means it does not stop. It's coming and coming and it's keeping on going at him. So relentlessly, and I'm going to use that word, the snow, hammered down. And then here's my important word to make it a simile, like 1,000 bullets raining down on him. So I now need to go back and check my sentence. Okay, so I've got relentlessly, the snow hammered down like 1,000 bullets raining down on him. So I've got like in there, so I've definitely made a simile. Okay, so I've thought about how I've started it with an adverb. So I'm really happy with my sentence. So I've made a simile. Now, what I would like you to do now is I would pause the video. I want you to pause it and have a go at your similes. And I want you to write 3 similes. Now, to help you, I want you to think about what you could describe. So you could do the wind, the snow, the storm, the sky, anything like that, the cold. So it's up to you what you describe, and you're going to write 3 similes. You've also got a word bank to help you. So this is to help you think about starting your sentences in a different way. So not just starting the snow was like. So thinking about how you can start your sentences. So I've done you some adverbs, some ing words, some verbs, some adjectives, okay, to help you think about starting your sentences and adding that extra detail to make your sentences the best that they can be. So in a moment, I want you to pause the video so that you've got that vocabulary. Think about it as a simile, so it must have as or like in. Think about what you are comparing it to, okay? So have a go at 3 similes. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Okay, so I'll just step so that you can see the word bank. Wait for the light to adjust. Okay, so if you pause the video, you might also have your own ideas as well. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to reading those similes. So we're going to move on to metaphors now. So metaphors are quite similar to similes. However, they don't use as or like. With a metaphor, you're saying something was or is something else. Okay, so it's really important today. There's some words I want you to think about now because this is past tense. You're going to use was and were. I wonder if anyone can remember what type of word they are. It's a type of verb. Can you remember? Have a little think. Okay, so they are auxiliary verbs, aren't they? They help the sentence to make sense. So instead of saying something is like something, so with my example with the snow being like bullets, you could have the snowflakes were bullets hammering down. So you're saying they are something else. Okay? So we're going to have a think about this one. Now for my metaphor, I'm going to describe the sky. So I'm going to have hanging, I'm going to start with hanging with this one. Hanging over him. Ominously. That's one of my words from the beginning as well. So it's like it's threatening him. The sky was a thick. I'm going to say it is a blanket, but remember blankets are nice things, but I want to make it sound like it's not so nice. So it was a thick, I'll put thick, a thick, threatening blanket. I'm going to check it, check I've made a metaphor. So I've got that keyword was, so I'm not saying as or like, so hanging over him ominously, so I know that something bad's going to happen. The sky was a thick, threatening blanket. Okay, so I could extend that a little bit, a thick, threatening blanket of darkness. Not letting any light through, it's threatening him. Okay, so remember with a metaphor, a little bit like a simile, but instead of saying it is as or like something, you're saying it was something. Okay, so think about those things that we talked about that we could describe. So the wind, the snow, the storm, the cold, you could have the snowflakes, you could have lots of things that you could describe. I want you to have a go this time, 3 metaphors. Okay, so you could have something like the wind was icy giant's breath. Okay, so have a think. Remember, it's a metaphor, so you're saying it was something else. So choose what you're going to describe, and I want 3 metaphors this time. So I'll put the word bank back on to help you. Put the word bank back on to help you with those openers and getting started with your sentences. Okay, so the next one that we're going to look at is personification. And I love personification. Okay, verbs are really, really important this time. So using your verbs to help you. So remember, personification is giving something that isn't human. So like the wind, the snow, the ice, those kind of things, giving something that isn't human a human quality. So using verbs to give it something human. So I'm going to use the wind. Okay, so I'm going to have racing. I'm starting with an ing word, a verb, past him. The wind. I'm going to use that word from the beginning, cautionary, like a warning. So something's warning him. The wind howled. So there's my personification. It's not actually howling. It can't howl because it's the wind. It's just the sound that it's making. So the wind howled. Oh, I've already said past him. So the wind howled a cautionary tale. So racing past him, the wind howled. So there's my personification. Howled, I'm using that verb. I'm giving it a non-human quality. Howled a cautionary tale. So again, I'm giving that idea that something threatening is going on, something bad's going on. Okay, so again, think about, I want 3 personification because that is something that we're really good at. So 3 sentences with personification in. So think about the snow, the ice, the wind, and think about how you can make it have a human quality. Okay, so it might be that the snow attacked, because it's not actually attacking, it's just falling down, isn't it? So think about giving it a non-human quality. Okay, so I'll put the word bank back up. And you can pause it to help you start your sentences. Okay, so finally then today, we're going to have a think about onomatopoeia and alliteration. I'm not going to get you to write as much of that. You might want to, because actually it's a little bit trickier to think of examples of this. Oops, so I've got onomatopoeia and alliteration. Now, onomatopoeia is where you use words that sound, so a word that sounds like the sound they make. Okay, so that's onomatopoeia. And alliteration is where you've got 2 words together that make the same sound. So we've got onomatopoeia. So I'm going to think about him this time, more about what he's feeling. Okay, so I'm going to start with shaking. And shivering. So sh sound. So shaking and shivering, he pushed hard against the wind. Okay, so I'm only going to ask you to think of one alliteration. So one alliteration that you could use in your writing. So remember, it's using the same sound at the beginning of a word. So you might have 2 words. So I've got shaking and shivering, 2 sounds at the beginning of the word that sound the same. Okay, and then, so have a pause, have a think. How could you use alliteration? I only want one example of that. And then finally then, an onomatopoeia. So that's when you use words that sound like the sound they make. So I'm going to use whooshing, past him, the icy wind. So I'm going to mix personification here as well. Bit ears. Okay, so whooshing is my sound. It sounds like the sound it makes. So whooshing past him. The icy wind bit at his ears. So I've got a bit of personification in there as well. So think about those words. So you've got like things like whoosh, bang, crash. Okay, so think about those words. So I only want one example of alliteration and one example of onomatopoeia in a sentence. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what you come up with today. Make sure you go back to the video, back to the word bank to give yourself some ideas. And it'll really help you with your work tomorrow, putting it into a paragraph. Really looking forward to seeing what you come up with. No word power this week, word power this at all now. It is over. So just your writing today. Can't wait to see a picture of it. Keep it up, Year 6. You're doing an absolutely brilliant job.